Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Wednesday. It is May the 29th, and as we wrap up this month of May, we're going to do it weird on Wednesday. Is today Judgment Day? Is that what's going on? CNN seems to think so. What kind of judgment are you talking about? You're walking around in the world, you're looking, no mushroom clouds, no bright lights hitting you. Yeah, well, the jury is getting instructions, and Mark Naughton is en route to the circus. The clowns were out yesterday, and apparently we will begin the deliberations. When I say we, I mean this whole country. We'll get to see what New York is serving up for former President Donald Trump in the so-called hush money trial. There's nothing but wall-to-wall coverage in all of the news outlets. We're going to talk about what's going on there just a bit because we can't help it. But we're also going to talk about what are they covering up with this clown show. The Romans used to say, give them bread and circuses. What was that covering up? The fall of the empire, it turns out. So we'll get into that just a bit. Before we do, I want to say thanks to my buddies over at Catholic Vote who are sponsoring our program. They keep us going, and I got this in the mail just the other day. I think I got it on Saturday, but I have it for you today. For God, Country, and Sanity. This is the real copy. This is a first edition. It is unbroken yet. I have not even clicked it in. Edited by Brian Birch. For God, Country, and Sanity, How Catholics Can Save America. One of these chapters is mine. I will read the ones that are not, because that's what I need to do. Follow them on social media at Catholic Vote, at Catholic Vote, at Catholic Vote, at Catholic Vote. You can also see our new podcast, which we've put some real work into. You guys will see some of the sweat equity that I have in that little show coming up at the end of the week here. Probably Thursday afternoon is usually the drop, and it will be for what's called Between the Lines. It's a short form, long commentary. Yeah, that makes some sense. It's only about 8 to 10 minutes long. We edit in a really nice little clip on sort of current events in a Catholic and or Christian view. You guys should check that out. Make sure you're getting the loop by going to catholicvote.org/getloop, as Rose in the chat has already put out there. And speaking of the chat, if you guys have not joined us live on Rumble, what are you doing? Come on over. Make sure you've hit the like button wherever you're listening to us, if that's an option. Make sure you hit the heart if you're on X. Make sure you hit the thumbs up over on YouTube. And do the like if you are watching us on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Do you see how I waited for that dramatic pause for it to just appear on the screen? There it is. The live chat is already bumping and has been. So thanks to all of our regulars in there. And let's get going with the story of the day. So much hinges on Trump's New York trial verdict. What on earth is she talking about? This is Rachel Maddow. I think that's guy's called Lawrence O'Donnell. The Manhattan jury could well be the only one that Trump faces before Election Day. This is really what it's all about, folks. This one is coming from MSNBC, sort of the unhinged, the emotional center of the political left. And this is an opinion writer, so that's always a nice way to start with it. Coming underneath the Rachel Maddow blog, if you can believe such a thing. This is Hayes Brown talking about that it's easy to forget that former President Donald Trump's schedule between now and November was supposed to be completely packed with courthouse appearances. Can we just drop the veil right there? It was supposed to be? What does that mean? Oh, you mean there was like a plan to tie up the former president as he runs for president again in courthouse dramas? And it hasn't worked out according to plan? This is maybe the story. I think it's the behind the scenes story. There was an expectation that they would tie Donald Trump up in so many legal knots that he would not be able to effectively run for president. This starts all the way back in August of 22, when they executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Again, the paperwork is irrelevant. The fact is that Bruce Reinhardt, a federal magistrate judge, signed a search warrant, and our DOJ and FBI decided to go out there and execute a search warrant, which means they wrote up a statement of probable cause. They wrote up an affidavit of facts. Then they submitted it. And what they requested was what we would call an overly broad search warrant. There are many issues with the legality of that search warrant, and they are being adjudicated in Florida right now with Judge Cannon. That is really the crazy part of it. The fact that the FBI searched all the rooms. Listen, when we talk about a weaponized federal government, when you hear Steve Friend or Garrett O'Boyle, my fellow whistleblowers, when you hear these guys come on here and we tell you there is a federal government that is out of control. The deadly force policy is not it, by the way. That's been there since Ruby Ridge. In fact, I had one of you reach out to me and let me know that you were actually in those meetings when they came up with the FD 888 after the tragic shooting of Vicki Weaver and the child. Because the FBI had this overly broad sense of rules of engagement. That's a military term, and we're talking about a law enforcement agency. But the bigger issue is how wide the scope of these search warrants are being written. When you describe things that need to be searched, you're supposed to be very specific. We have a prohibition in this country of what is kind of broadly called general warrants. You're not supposed to be able to say, I'm going to search all the things that belong to Kyle Seraphin, period. So what they do is they're getting around it right now. Thank you, Sam Weaver. I saw it in the chat. Thank you, Kay. That was the young infant in arms. We're dealing with a broader and more dangerous problem. This is bigger than Donald Trump, and it always has been, if we're being really honest. You can't simultaneously argue that we have a two-tiered system of justice, one for the elite and one for everybody else, and then simultaneously say, but we also think that Donald Trump should be treated like the elite. That's the big story. Donald Trump was treated like a meth addict or a common criminal who was making methamphetamines or PCP in his basement. How do I know? I've served warrants for PCP in somebody's basement. That was the first day on the job for me. And they wrote the same search warrant. And they wrote it as overly broad as they did for what happened at Mar-a-Lago. That should trouble all of us. This is not a Donald Trump problem. This is an America problem, folks. It's big, and it's way bigger than one man and one office and one situation. They did think they were going to tie him up forever. But if we're going to make this campaign, and when I say we, I mean conservatives most broadly, including independent conservatives who are not aligned with a party. I mean, I'm not aligned with a party, but I'm aligned with an outcome. This is what we have to talk about. We have to say, what's in it for you, the individual voter? What is in it for people who are not diehard MAGA, who are not going to show up at a boat rally? I listened to Mark Naughton's Trump Tuesday. By the way, Mark Naughton is en route to the circus right now. He's on trains and planes and automobiles or whatever it takes for him to get up there. We're talking about what's in it for the regular guy who's not a billionaire, who doesn't have a 17-acre beautiful estate that's right on the side of the ocean. And what's in it is when a DOJ seeks out a search warrant for someone who does fit into elite status like Donald Trump and does so for what appears to be political purposes, which we will cover today, the clown show that happened with Robert DeNiro yesterday. When you have that happen, we are dealing with something that is far bigger than one man. It's big enough that the wording is the problem on the search warrant. It's always gone back to that. It's a judge who said, listen, I'm going to sign this because I think that you have probable cause to believe that a federal crime took place. I'm going to break every social norm. And on top of that, I'm going to sign the FBI's regular search warrant, which is canned standard language. That language is so scary because in the information age, in this digital age that we live in, evidence of a crime can be actually stored. You know what? I've got one right here. So give me 1 second. I'm going to show you how little it is. You've all seen these. This is a 512 gigabyte micro SD card. Look how big that is. That holds everything that you would have in a supercomputer from the time when I was a kid. Nobody had 512 gigabytes. 512 gigabytes fits into your thumbnail, maybe even into your pinky nail, depending on how big your fingers are. Mine aren't that big. Do you know where you can hide that tiny little thing? Anywhere. Any single place. You can put it in an envelope that is the size of the palm of your hand. If you can find something that's going to hold incredible amounts of data in something the size of your thumbnail, then you can write a search warrant that goes everywhere. Because you don't have to say, well, we're looking for a rifle, right? Evidence of a crime. We're looking for a rifle that was used in the shooting. Okay. Rifles can only fit in certain places. That means that you're not going into my what do you call those things? You're not going into the compartment, the glove compartment in your car, right? That's not a rifle space. You're not going to look under the seats necessarily. You're going to look openly there, but you can be very specific about what you can find a rifle in. I found rifles. They're in closets. They are in safes. They're in massively wide drawers that are more than 29 inches. You have certain things that you can find when you describe the items to be seized and searched. But when we're talking about something the size of a thumbnail, we are talking about something that is the size of a tiny little digital footprint. Everything is on the list. And yes, as Baliran just said on the chat, the panty drawer can be searched. Our friend FBI Panty Raid regularly talks about this. The joke is that you can search a panty drawer. We did an entire scene in the movie Police State where they searched a panty drawer. There's always a search in the panty drawer because you're looking for things that are tiny. This is the big problem. All right. The problem is we are going for an absolutely minuscule, tiny item because you can justify that evidence of the crime, that supporting evidence of the conspiracy and so on. When you describe the items to be seized, if it includes all electronic media, and it always does, people, it always does, then anywhere that you can leave a phone or a SIM card or a micro SD card is up to be searched. And that means everywhere. They can search inside of your shoes. What if they find, evidence of a crime that has nothing to do with what they were searching for? What if they find things that have nothing to do with what was described? They're still good because they were searching in a place that they were legally authorized to search. This is the massive and broad overreach that we're talking about with a federal government that is weaponized. They simply need to come up with the most mundane and ridiculous crime. Conspiracy against rights, right? That's the one that we see in these federal trials. And then they can search all of your stuff and try to find it. And you know what the real scary thing is? Because this is what we've been hammering on. This is the suspendables drum that we beat. Ding, ding, ding. What does it matter for the average person? It matters like this, and you need to articulate these things. It matters that when they have a national security investigation into you, which doesn't allege a crime, no crime alleged, and then they have a crime that they're alleging that's conspiracy or some other BS charge, they can go find the evidence of the national security thing that they wanted to prove in the first place. The things they found using classified techniques and tools, whether it be FISA, whether it be 702 FISA, whether it be national security letters, whatever they find, they can play in that legal space and they can construct in parallel as they do a search warrant for something else because they can look everywhere. They can seize your phones. They can seize your computers. Do you see why this is problematic? This is the government that our founding fathers warned us against. This is what it's all about. Imagine this. I like to use this example. Imagine that I know, because I've been monitoring your social media. I've been monitoring your DMs. I've been monitoring, let's say, your text messages with a friend that you decided to not encrypt foolishly. Or maybe your back and forth private emails and you thought that they were secure, but they're not. So you describe a federal crime. Oh, I'm holding on to cocaine, a movable weight of cocaine because I'm going to make a bunch of money. I invested in it. I invested in cocaine because I'm a dummy and I want to sell it and I'm going to get a huge return because I found a way to get it from fill in the blank source that I have who's a family member. Okay, whatever it is. I'm monitoring you for other reasons because I think you're a domestic violent extremist. I'm running a counterterrorism case. The counterterrorism case doesn't allege any crime, but drug trafficking is a crime. And man, I really would like to get a white supremacist off the board, wouldn't I? I would like to get those statistical accomplishments. I would like to get the high fives for taking this person off the map as an FBI agent. So what do? I can actually get the search warrant for something else. I make allegations that are vague that we're going to find something that is going to be in furtherance, material support of terrorism. And I know exactly where you're keeping that cocaine because I'm following you in a way that you're never going to find out about. And I execute a search warrant looking for things that are this small. And we find your stash. Now, we weren't looking for that stash, allegedly. We were looking for something else. We were looking for evidence of fill in the blank criminal charge, the conspiracy against rights, the 1512 charge that the Supreme Court is dealing with, whatever. Obstruction of an official proceeding because you were there. But we're going to get you, J6er, because we know that you have cocaine, because we have been monitoring you, because we have been using national security tools under the counterterrorism banner. This is parallel construction. This is constructing a case in parallel, getting a search warrant for one thing, and being able to find it something else. And they're not going to embarrass that judge, are they? They're not going to embarrass the judge because the judge signed off on the warrant saying that there's going to be something there. And lo and behold, son of a gun. Joe Biden likes to say it a little bit more aggressively. We found it. They don't have to plant it for you. Mitch in our chat was worried that they're going to plant it. No, they don't even have to plant it. They just know it's there. It's my concern about what happened with Jeremy Brown, who was a Special Forces veteran. There's a lot of guys in SF that have things like pyro at their house. Should they have it? Probably not. Do I worry about them having it? Not really. One of my friends supposedly proposed to his wife with like a 9-banger flashbang. Set it off like he was messing with fireworks. Scared the living hell out of her. She thought he blew his eyes out, and then he was on in the smoke cloud with a ring. Should he have been doing that? Probably not. Is that what happens when you send guys to war overseas and they're able to do certain things that they're used to doing, and they do it like a regular basis, and then suddenly you take them home and the rules are totally different because they live in America? It's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's a real problem, isn't it? So that's what the police state movie is about. It's about a totalitarian system where we have federal law enforcement using national security tools to set people up. And I think we were just hearing it here from Hayes Brown. Donald Trump was supposed to be tied up in court appearances. The lawfare was he wasn't supposed to be able to have time to run for president. Turns out he actually doesn't, but they gave him a brilliant platform to step up and talk about it. So what's in it for the normies? What's in it for the independents who actually are still waiting to have their minds made up? What's in it is, if the government can go after Donald Trump, who are you to stand against them? He has billions of dollars. He has lots of donors. He has a massive microphone where people want to hear what he has to say. Do they care about what's happening to you? Right now, there is a criminal trial that is happening in Idaho because somebody killed 3 college students and the alleged murderer is on trial. Are you hearing about that? The jury's about to go into deliberations right now. Did we completely lose that thread? We did, because we're worried about Donald Trump. How quickly would your case, would Dexter Kaler's case, get swept underneath the rug because nobody cares because you're not that big? That's why you should care about what happens to Donald Trump. That's why I care. Even if I don't personally know Donald Trump, I care what it's doing. I care what it's doing to our country and the norms in this country. And the quiet part out loud from this MSNBC piece was also mirrored by something that happened in Vanity Fair. Jack Smith had one job to do. Take Donald Trump to trial before the election, and the Supreme Court may not let him do it. You see how they're going after people like Judge Alito for the flag thing? Do you see how they are very upset that they cannot proceed with Jack Smith's case against Donald Trump? They really wanted to trot this circus out there. Alvin Bragg is the settling for mediocrity when it comes to the gold standard, which is federal prosecution. This is what was expected. This article here from Vanity Fair, which I went and grabbed, Christian Farias, I don't know who that is. Misspelled the word Christian, by the way. April 24th of this year. This just happened a couple of weeks ago that he wrote this, about like 1 month, basically. The special counsel told the justices that the former president's alleged crimes strike at the heart of our democracy. Doesn't that sound like a Democrat operative? Our democracy? Do we have a democracy? Do we? Isn't that the tyranny of the majority? Isn't that what this guy is not supposed to be going after? The office of the special counsel is looking for outcomes, not fairness, which is why you have such a differentiation between the treatment of Donald Trump and Joe Biden. We all see it. The key is, can you make people who don't have a vested interest in a Donald Trump see it and care about it, about what's in it for them? That's what this election is about, folks. If you're on the left, you're voting for Biden. If you're on the right, you're voting for Trump. If you're in the middle, you need to be convinced that you care enough to show up for either one of them. Are we tracking? That's the story here. And what we have is a full-on media push. They have this massive, massive media wet rollout talking about how crazy and dangerous and all this other stuff is. They're ready for the wrap up here. Why? Because they think that they are going to get a favorable verdict either way. If there's a hung jury, they're going to talk about how the system didn't work and it favors the elite. If there's a conviction, obviously he's a very, very bad man and he's disqualified from holding the office of president. How dare he? You see? It's a win-win in this case. But they really wanted to get him for violating some federal standard that's made up. It justifies the entire use of the security apparatus, the folks whose offices I used to work right next to on the the 5th or the 6th floor of the Washington field office, who flew down to Mar-a-Lago and did that raid. That's what we're trying to justify here. It's very interesting. I'm going to play this little Rachel Maddow clip because as they did the closing arguments, there's a couple of funny little pieces. I watched an entire interview with George Conway. You guys remember him. He's Kellyanne Conway's husband, now estranged husband or whatever, former husband. And he was going in talking about this is what we expect. We expect to see about 90 minutes worth of closing arguments. The closing arguments went 3 hours and then went 4 hours and change. We had over 7 hours of closing statements on a case that's been going for weeks. What on earth are these people trying to convince? That's the old baffle them with BS situation. The case has not been made. They're terrified of it, the prosecution, and they're not interested in justice. So here we go. This is, like I said, a little Rachel Maddow clip. You guys will, the earliest part of this interview, for whatever it's worth, this guy, Lawrence O'Donnell, he pulls up and he says, I filled up 2 journalists' notebooks. Look at them. That's called argument to authority. It's the weakest authority. I wrote down many notes for 7 hours. Like, congratulations. Do you know anything? Not necessarily. But here we go. This is a little taste of what they're talking about on MSNBC's Last Word. Let's just digest this for a moment.
Judge Barchan said at the outset that it is his practice as a matter of running his courtroom. He likes for the jury to get both summations on one day. And I felt like heading into today, I was so worried about whether or not there would be other trailing ends from the trial, which sort of ended on the schedule he didn't want last week, and whether they'd be able to squeeze them in. I was thinking each summation would be like 90 minutes. When we got 3 hours and that was the short one, and then 4 hours and 40 minutes as the second one, I mean, it really was an endurance test for the jury. But the judge, who seems to be very bonded with this jury, does seem to think that it is in their best interest that they got them both today, that they didn't have a break, and that when they come back fresh tomorrow, they are just looking at him and listening to him and then getting to work.
Yeah, and the judge did say when this thing was well into overtime that he has been, after the jury left for a recess, he told the lawyers, I've been watching the jury. They still seem to be with us. They still seem to be ready to keep going. And of course, the jury wants to go. They want to get this job done and have it be over with as soon as is reasonably possible for them. And so the judge had already said to them, listen, we might need to go late on Tuesday night. They were warned about that a week ago, so they were ready to go late tonight. And but boy, when we heard the prosecutor say that he maybe had 4 hours of material, I have to say it felt like, we're going to be here tomorrow morning finishing.
So there you go. They're shocked. It went so long. Why would you go for 4 hours worth of material to wrap up a case that you've already made? Maybe because you didn't make the case. You're trying to beat them up. You're trying to keep them long enough, keep them there until they just submit. It's very interesting to me. What I want to kind of lean into is the actual standards that are at play, because apparently Americans don't know much about their own system, which is what we're going to see in some of this polling. There are a couple of things that are really important. Number one, the idea that the political left thinks that there was one job for Jack Smith to do, that this is going to be the only trial that we're going to get before November. None of that plays in a fair democracy or a republic that is governed by our Constitution. That's the Sixth Amendment you're seeing on the screen. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial, right? It's the first little clause in the Sixth Amendment, this right to a speedy and public trial. There's a couple things. Number one, it may be a public trial that we're seeing, but what we're also seeing is that they are not allowing cameras in there. Why? We have to just do sketches and weird stuff like that, where we can't, get real recordings. We're having people come in and recount from their journalist notepads. But the right is retained by the accused, not by the government. The government is not entitled to a speedy trial. It's the accused. And then there's some of these people that keep arguing, well, the public has a right. There's nothing mentioned here about the public. The right is that of the accused. Why do we do that? Because our founding fathers sort of knew a little bit about government overreach. They sort of knew during that time in the 1760s and 70s that there was an issue with when government has too much control and runs things and puts on kangaroo trials. They didn't want that. They wanted the accused to retain those rights. And they do. Now, here's the real thing. I listen to all these different sort of talking head arguments over and over again. There's plenty of them. They exist. There's takeaways. We'll read a couple of them. Norm Eisen weighed in on it. The 4 takeaways that you have to have, and what's the big deal, and all the things that they had to say. Essentially, if you have to spend 4+ hours trying to explain your case, when you should be able to do it in a paragraph or two, this should be a one sheet. The key is this: did you prove through all the testimony, and we know that they didn't because of how long this stupid trial went on. This is not that complicated. Prove there was an underlying crime, and then prove they used business records to cover it up. That's the entirety of it. Was that done? Did it take 8 weeks or whatever the hell it took long? The standard is this: beyond a reasonable doubt. If you're speaking to someone for 4 hours, I'm saying that as someone who speaks to people for an hour every single day. If you can't make your point in one, if you can't make your point in 30 minutes, if you can't explain those simple elements, this was the crime and this is how it took place, quote unquote, beyond a reasonable doubt, it is my assumption that you didn't make that clear in the weeks and weeks and weeks of the people you set up. If you are writing longer and longer paragraphs and failing to connect with word glue and logic that this had to happen beyond the standard here, beyond a reasonable doubt. Can a reasonable person doubt this happened? I can doubt it just by looking at what they did. You can look and do a meta-analysis of how much time they spent. It's like, did they really have it? Was it that complicated? We're talking about the entirety comes down to what? A handwritten note, a guy who did an illegal recording of his own client, and a paid liar who shows up. Like, dismissed. We're done. We're done here. So the question is can New Yorkers be honest about what's going on, and can they see this for what it is? Some of them must be sitting there listening to 4 hours of argument, trying to find the reason to convict when the reasonable doubt is probably already in their head. Reasonable doubt is the legal burden of proof that is required to affirm a conviction in a criminal case. The prosecution bears this burden. It is such an important point to remember. This is the prosecution's burden. They have to prove the case. The assumption that he is guilty is not American. We have a presumption of innocence in our system. That is not the same everywhere around the world. You are presumed innocent. It is the entirety of the state's job to come forward and show that beyond any reasonable doubt, no reasonable person can believe that you didn't do the thing. That's what's at play. Here's some takeaways. Here's the takeaways coming from, who is this? Is this NBC? Yes. Takeaways from the Trump trials, closing arguments. The jurors get dueling portraits of Michael Cohen. There's only one portrait of Michael Cohen. It's actually already set. He's lied. He's taped his own client. He's done a bunch of illegal and illicit things, immoral actions. And then he even got caught on the stand doing something that was illegal. They claim he's biased and motivated to tell you a story that's not true. He's the greatest liar of all time. That sounds very Trumpian, does it not? But is he motivated and biased? Yeah, we showed you. The TikToks are out there. He's biased. Takeaway number 1. You can't fight it. The prosecutors know that he matters. The prosecutors know that their liar was one of the centers of their case. They tried to act like that wasn't the case. They want to make this about Michael Cohen. Of course it is. They want to make it about Stormy Daniels. It's not even about her. Why did she testify? What did that have to do with anything except to smear Trump? They made this case about everything except what the case was about, and that's why it takes 4+ hours to try to wrap it up. They tried to weave all of their useless testimony that was nothing more than a smear job, a clown job, and they tried to make it about something that it couldn't have been. It's about business records, which is not sexy, and it's not very interesting. And they had to bend over backwards to make this the case. He answered the defendant directly. He got jobs that no one else wanted, the jobs that the defendant wanted to keep quiet. They're basically saying, you don't have to believe what we say about Cohen because Trump believed in him. Yeah, except that he didn't and hasn't for years. And bad things have happened because that man is not truthful. It's interesting. We're going to pivot over in just a second. I'm going to show you some of the footage from yesterday if you didn't catch the clown show outside of the courthouse, because of course this is not a political hit. That's why the Biden campaign sent people to go do political ad reads. Yeah, I'm serious. I can't even believe how stupid some of these commentaries are and how poorly read it is for someone who's theoretically a professional. It just lets you know with age comes a little bit of a slip in your capabilities. Before we get into that, let's talk about my friends over at Patriot Coolers. Look, you guys can go and get your own customized Patriot Cooler tumbler the way that we have them here. All the Suspendables have them. Yeah, I sent them over. PatriotCoolers.com, promo code KYLE. The promo code Kyle will save you 10%. It also tags us. And if you spend $50 or more, you'll get free shipping. But let's talk about their hard-sided coolers. They're the most used. I use the tumbler every day. I use the full-size 50 quart almost every day as well. There's always an instance. We were either doing a kid's birthday party, we're taking cold drinks, you were trying to keep our Costco stuff cold. It's Texas. It's like 100 degrees outside. It's 100 degrees in my car when I bring home stuff. So if I go buy frozen strawberries or whatever, frozen chicken strips or something like that, you want to go buy something at this bulk store, which you're going to be doing. We'll talk about that in a minute too. People are buying bulk. What do? You buy it frozen so it stays long enough. And if you don't want it to thaw out on the way home, I use a Patriot Cooler literally every day for that. You guys can get your own at patriotcoolers.com. Again, that promo code KYLE. You'll get a very, very nice looking product, and you'll get something that you guys can use for many years. They are rotomolded. They are fantastic. They are as good or better. It's kept ice for days and days. Even in the hot Texas summer, it's just a great tool. And the key is that you buy it once, you cry once. That's kind of my theory on things. I think it's as good or better than anything out there. It certainly is more accurate when you open it up and it says Patriot and it doesn't say Yeti or whatever else these other things say. Let's keep going. Apparently there's a hidden trap. Oh, this was actually done. This is done on the 26th. So this is from 4 days ago, before they did the closing arguments. This is the speculative argument that was made. Who is this? Is this ABC? No, this is back to MSNBC. Glenn Kirshner is a columnist talking about this trap that exists. The fact that Cohen has basically already said that he lied. That would be a trap to claim that he's a liar. What? What are we talking about? These are the same people. This video that you're seeing on the screen there from Katie Fang and George Conway were the ones talking about how they expect basically about 90 minutes to wrap it up. Yeah, by the way, if you're seeing on the screen here, behind George Conway, I cannot get over how weird it is. He's got a guitar. He's got this like urn that has a puppy dog on it, some kind of like a little corgi or something really weird. Do people not know what's going on in the background of their room? Like, look, my room is very intentional. Like, all these things mean something to me. I know because you get to see it every single day on camera. What is he doing? He's got like little figurines of corgis or cats or something, and they're all painted in ceramics. What a weird dude. What a strange time that we have this like totally unserious group of people who show up. They don't even know how to brush your damn hair in the morning, and they're giving commentary on stuff. And then, by the way, they're totally wrong. He's totally wrong about every single thing he said. So anyway, there's a hidden trap, which didn't happen. None of this stuff fell prey. And we're about to get the exciting part of the jury getting to weigh in on it. Here's the problem and why this is a problem in New York. This is coming from ABC. Correction, this is coming from CBS. Most believe Trump is probably guilty of his crime in NYC trial as it comes to an end. CBS News poll finds. Yeah, I said it right in the title. I should have known that. What? Why? How many of you have listened to every single day of this courtroom? The answer is none. None of you have. Nobody's gone out there and done that. Maybe some reporters who do it for a living, but they don't listen to this show, right? How in the world do they have this formation that they believe that he's obviously guilty? Why do 37% say he's definitely guilty and 19% say he's probably guilty? Why does anyone have that opinion when they haven't listened to the evidence? They haven't even been there because there's been a media blitz to basically push it. Every single CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, PBS, you name it, they're all pushing the same agenda. They're all saying the same thing. Obviously, he's guilty. Why? Because that's why we brought the case. They are ignoring the presumption of innocence that is found that we're supposed to believe in this country. They are ignoring the rights of the accused. They've already made up their mind. And how much does that represent what's going on in New York? Now, here's the real troubling part. This is the CBS YouGov poll. 93% of Democrats believe he's guilty. What do they know? Do they know anything? Do they understand like the nuance of this case? No. Oh, he paid money. So what? You're allowed to pay money, it actually turns out. The question is whether they falsified the business records about the money they paid for the so-called catch and kill stories. 93% of Democrats. Only 7% say he's not guilty. This is the concerning part. Independents are 50-50. I'm telling you, this election is all about, this November election is all about people in the middle. 78% of Republicans say that he's not guilty. 22% say that he's probably guilty. 22%, That's a lot more than I would expect, mostly because it tells me a lot of Republicans don't know anything that they're talking about there. That's 1 in 4 rather. It's almost a quarter. 22% of people don't know. But the key is 50-50. If you're in the middle, then you have a basic break. It could go either way. And that's what's really critical here. The independent voter is the person that this should be aimed at. And the story of the Mar-a-Lago raids and the story of all the federal searches, all of them should be pointed at not the left or the right. They're so polarized, 78%, 93%. People have already come in on things that they don't even have a close clue about what they're talking about. There's no way they understood every single day of a 9-week trial and all the evidence. They didn't get presented. The jury did. People that were in the courtroom did. Reporters did. But not the general public. So, who's important? The people in the middle. And it doesn't matter. Have you heard or read about the Trump trial? 43% of Democrats say a lot. 43% of Republicans said a lot. 39%, the lowest percentage of independents said that they've heard a lot. Why? Because they don't care. That's the key. You have to make this about people and give it a reason for them to care. The people that said some, 37% across the board, about 1 in 3 people has heard a little bit about it. And almost 20% of people have heard almost nothing about it. And they know very, very little, including 24% of independents, according to these polls. 1 in 4 people in the middle have heard nothing about it. And basically 1 in 2 people think he's not guilty. How does that make sense? You can't tell me that only 25% of people have heard nothing about it. We're talking about 75% of the people have heard something about it, but everybody has an opinion on whether he's guilty or not. It's 50-50. That's bizarre. This is a messaging campaign. It's always been a messaging campaign. The pushback for this messaging campaign is what's in it for me, and me being the independent voter. That's what should be pushed. And the messaging people that are on the Trump side can do that very effectively. In the meantime, you're still going to get these like hyperbolic and lunatic style. Like CNN is usually down the middle with stuff. Instead, you've got Stephen Colson talking about Judgment Day looming for Donald Trump. They are clowns, folks. They're clowns. And so they trotted out the king of the clowns out here yesterday to talk about how Trump's going to be a dictator for life. What's this have to do with hush money and falsified business records? Nothing. But here's Robert DeNiro.
Mr. President, what's your message to Democrats who don't want you to run?
That is not Robert DeNiro. That is a reporter asking a good question about why are you still running, Joe Biden? Let's actually listen to it because, seriously, why is this guy still running if people don't want him to? I'm going to show you in 1 second why. It's already preordained. Don't worry about any of that stuff, folks. Just pay attention to the fear porn, and Donald Trump is very bad.
Mr. President, what's your message to Democrats who don't want you to run again?
They want me to run.
2/3 say they
Read
don't.
the polls. Read the polls, Jack. You guys are all the same. That poll showed that 92% of Democrats, if I ran, would vote for me.
A majority of Democrats say they don't want you to run again in 2024.
92% said if I did, they'd vote for me.
92% said they would vote for me, but majority said they wouldn't. But no. So now we're going to argue about polls with the reporter because he's been told 92%. Hold on to that as best you can. Who knows what that 92% actually refers to? A lot of people think he's too old and they don't want to run with him. And maybe that's why you trotted out this old guy to go do it. Okay, so I promised you a clown show. Here it is. Dictator for life. That's what's on the docket today. Can we really do dictator for life still after the guy already got on Marine One or whatever it was and flew away in January of 21? Like, do people know that he already had the office and he didn't do dictator for life? Was that just a warm up? It was a joke, and then he hoped that he could win again. It's so bizarre. It's such an odd argument. Here it is, DeNiro not making a good argument.
And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave. What does that mean? Is that the country we want to live in? Do we want him running this country and saying, I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life? I hope this new ad campaign reaches outside the bubble to remind supporters of what a danger he is to our lives. This is not a threat. This is a reality. And that's why I've joined the Biden-Harris campaign, because the only way to preserve our freedoms and hold on to our humanity is to vote for Joe Biden for president. Really. We don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's how we do democracy. We don't have a choice. Seriously, why is this man saying, like, what is he an authority on? Does Robert De Niro know anything? And I think all of us can say in unison at the same time, we are that car horn, right? We're just like, no. Like, what are you doing out there, man? Why are you talking about something that you don't know about? And the worst possible segue, where you're like, he went off script for a second. You could see he was like getting really passionate and he's talking. Then he goes back to his talking points. It's like, and that's why I'm endorsing Biden for this new ad campaign. It's so dumb. It's the dumbest thing you could do. He's got Michael Fanone standing behind him, the guy with the freaking neck tats that look like he's got spider webs. He looks like he's got prison tats. Who was the Capitol Police officer that was famous for crying and having a beard and looking really hard. He looks like a brawler, but. That guy, and then fat, dumb Harry Dunn, the guy who just lost his primary in Maryland. I think it's Maryland's third that he just lost. Like, what? You guys want the Pope's statement on this? Yes, you're right.
Già troppa frottaggine.
Frottaggine. It's everywhere. It's in New York. So I'm not going to just leave you with one De Niro. De Niro makes an argument that's not wrong. There's a lot of room in New York for a lot of people, including clowns, which I guess is what he's making the argument that he is. Now, if you guys see the social media video of this where they've actually like memed on the clown faces, it's actually pretty unsettling. So I didn't want to play that. I'm just going to play his face, which is clown-like in and of itself. But yeah, like, who are the guys behind? What does Robert De Niro have to do with J6, Capitol Police officers who suck? And then, of course, somebody called him out for it. And they're like, hey, those guys were like liars on the stand. Do you know that? And he was like, no. Hey, come on. No, he didn't do that. They're not liars. I'm De Niro. Yeah, I saw the Pope apologize, folks. But here's the thing.
Già troppa frottaggine.
What we've heard, we cannot unhear. We know what the Pope thinks. You can always walk back a statement once you make a good one like that. All right, De Niro, talking about clowns. Plenty of room for them in New York. Apparently, room for clowns like De Niro. And they can also facilitate guys like Dunn and Fanone.
But this city is pretty accommodating. We make room for clowns. We have them all over the city. People who do crazy things in the street, we tolerate it. It's part of the city. It's part of the culture. But not a person like Trump who will eventually run the country. That does not work, and we all know that. Anyway, we make room for clowns, to each his own.
And right here, what you can see is what I will call the March of the Clowns. Look at this clown show. We've got De Niro showing up with a gray N95 respirator. He's the only one. He's flipping outdoors, people. He's outside in New York. And we got a bunch of dudes who are confused. We got some security personnel there. I don't know why they're there. They're looking around. They look kind of tough in their black suits. They look like they got either body armor on or bellies or both. I'm going to say bellies because everyone there seems to have a belly. Yeah, we're all laughing. We're all yucking it up here. Why are you wearing a mask, De Niro? I don't know. I'm outside. This is like part of my gig. I'm totally scared. This is like okay, I'm going to take off my mask now and I'm going to read my speech. Yeah, I don't need to have a mask on when I give my speech, do I? That'd be ridiculous. What kind of goofball clown show are we looking at there? The man just said the city makes room for clowns. He proved it before he walked up. Absolutely bizarre. But none of that matters if the polling doesn't work in favor. There you go. There's the coverage of this. Robert De Niro and former police officers slam Trump outside the hush money trial. How about the question, why the hell were they there? They spoke on behalf of the Biden campaign. Nothing like telling people that this isn't a political hit job by being a political hit job. And interestingly enough, CNN actually running down the middle and saying, hey guys, are you making kind of a political misstep? I mean, I think basically Americans get this. Like I said, what's in it for me? If you're going to show up and you're going to hang out and do political messaging outside of a courthouse that's supposed to be a very, very serious proceeding, and we're supposed to believe has nothing to do with politics, aren't you kind of making his argument for him? Good on them for saying something that actually is true, even if it makes Democrat senators uncomfortable.
Do you think that it's smart for the Biden campaign to be outside the courthouse talking politics? The Trump campaign criticism is that shows that the trial is political. On the flip side, I'm curious, do you think that the Biden campaign should be even more aggressive than that they've been, considering the state of the polls?
Well, I haven't thought about this much, Casey, but I'll say this. For the last 3 weeks, literally 24/7, it's been the only thing that's been covered on this network. So I appreciate the chance to talk about Taiwan. I appreciate the chance to talk about other foreign policy concerns, the war in Gaza. But I suspect that Robert DeNiro, who's a New Yorker, went to the trial in part because there's so much press there. If you look at the image you've got up on the TV right now, there are more microphones there than there are in the entire island nation of Taiwan. So I suspect he's there because you're there.
Okay. That's Chris Coons from Delaware, the senator. Did he just drop the veil on what this is all about? Is that what's going on here? Because he just said we'd like to talk about some foreign policy. Luckily, everybody is distracted, and CNN is running 24/7 on Trump, 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 and doomsday. And where's my doomsday? Doomsday. It's doomsday in New York. It's Judgment Day. Blah, blah, blah. If we're talking about Donald Trump, are we not talking about the things that are like, we're moving into the sweet spot for a land war in Asia on the island of Taiwan? When I made a point the other day when I was talking to the producers over at Catholic Vote for Between the Lines. And one of the points was, when I was a kid, we watched old movies, all right? And the reason why the movie The Matrix was so wild to most of us who watched it is because it was one of the first times that you couldn't see the wires. There were obviously wires involved, but they moved cameras in a certain way. They did the backdrop. They had CGI technology that had never existed before. We couldn't see the wires. So how the hell did Trinity run up that wall and flip over and kick that guy? And how did Neo, land on his feet? Now, when you watch the making of it and you go back and watch it again, the CGI is better now. It was totally impractical the way they landed, and a lot of the stuff actually showed the wires only because they were breaking the rules of gravity. That was the whole point of The Matrix anyway. But I took my kids, I made them watch Bedknobs and Broomsticks, the old Angela Lansbury movie. And the amazing thing about that, by the way, which is a very, very weird movie. It's about witchcraft and helping the British military. Very strange, and killing off the Germans. It's like a really bizarre movie when you go back and watch it with kind of a modern lens. You can see the bed flying and you can see the wires. They run it on a blue backdrop to be able to confuse the eye more. And if you're not watching it in high definition, you probably couldn't tell. But yeah, you can see the wires in it. We've gone from you can see the wires to you couldn't see the wires, and now we can see the damn wires again. Robert De Niro is a puppet. Here's the real problem. I told you about the Kansas City Shuffle, right? What is the scam? The key of the Kansas City Shuffle is this. You must believe that you are being conned, but you must believe that the con that is happening is not the one that they're actually doing. You think the con is about them going after Donald Trump. In the meantime, we're all reacting to clowns in New York and all this other coverage. And what are we skipping out on? There's a concept of opportunity cost that we have to play in. The opportunity cost is what on earth are we not paying attention to if we are worrying about Donald Trump? And I saw you guys in the chat kind of negotiating back and forth. The question is this. It's not what you think. It's about the people in the middle, and it's really about 12 people that are sitting in that courtroom. What did they come away with? Because as we can see, this country is factionalized except the people, like maybe the 20% of voters that are actually up for grabs. Those are the only people that any of this stuff should be playing towards. That's what we have to pay attention to. Here's what you're not paying attention to. Are you ready? Actually, let me just do a Matt Hat jerky real quick. This is the thing that we have in the house. This is the end of my bag. I'm down to look, you can see the back of it. I'm down to the last couple ounces. This is the gourmet flank. This is the roasted garlic. It is easily the second best. You should check that out. MattHatJerky.com/Kyle. Again, Matt with 2 T's, MattHat, jerky, JERKY.com. MattHatJerky.com/Kyle. Save 20% using my promo code, which is KYLE. We make it real easy. It's always 4 letters. Saves you 20%. And I think you get free shipping at $75. Honestly, it's so good as long as you get the stuff that I'm telling you. Now, if you like other things, I can't recommend them. I don't know. Like you like spicy or whatever. But if you want rich, meat-flavored, like stuff that it doesn't last forever either. This is not an emergency food that you can store forever. This is a food that you have to eat in the next month or two because it has high fat, which means it can go bad. It's actually a really good consumable product. You have time, but man, you're gonna eat it fast if you get it. I already have gone through bags and bags of this stuff. And check out the black truffle, because if you're not getting it, you're screwed up. If you like jerky, it's the way to go. Some of you guys said it's the best jerky I've ever eaten. Yes, that's correct. T-Zivit in the chat. All right, so what are we missing out on, people? Like, seriously, what is the opportunity cost for our attention span? It's right here. Key Republicans are now calling for generational increases in defense spending. Uh-oh. Okay, is that really what it's all about? This is coming from ABC News, top-ranking Republican on the Senate committee. What committee are we talking about? We're talking about the Senate Armed Services Committee, which helps lay this thing out. He said they're going to seek an additional $55 billion in defense spending over the limits that were already forged in the deal to spend the nation's debt limit. Oh, you mean Republicans who want more government and more money, as long as it's defense spending, right, folks? As long as we're funding our military. Why do we need to fund our military so heavily? Maybe because we've been failing it. That's part of it. We've been doing a lot of dumb things. But in the background, they're over here prepping for something that looks really, really disturbing. A generational investment in America's defenses is what Roger Wicker, he's the picture on the screen that you're seeing, was telling the Associated Press. They're seeking this money because they want to position us in global terms, saying there's never been such a level of cooperation and coordination among an axis of aggressors. Oh, are we going back to the axis of evil thing? Guys, did we run out of the 9/11 money and the excitement? So now we're going to go back and push this? As long as you're distracted and worried about Trump hush money or Jack Smith trying to get people, as long as we can keep you distracted, can we push through a bunch of money that's going to go somewhere that doesn't make any sense to Americans, America first? I saw this too. Nikki Haley was in Israel. You remember Nikki Haley? Does anyone remember her? She was running for president. She seemed really, really excited about going to war. What is she doing in Israel? Why is she signing pieces like artillery shells? Someone tell me what size that is by eyeballs. What size is that artillery shell that she's over here? Apparently she wrote the words, "finish them," on Israeli artillery shells while doing posed photographs wearing a stupid Kevlar vest, which stops zero rifle fire. She's not wearing a plate carrier. What on earth are we doing here? Why is Nikki Haley running around doing that? She said, "I will say this to Netanyahu. Finish them. Finish them." Is this freaking Mortal Kombat? Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind us, so finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done. That's problematic for me. She was doing a photo shoot with someone called Dunn, a former Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. Went on the trip, so she obviously met through the UN. Someone says it's 155s. Is that what's on the shell? I can't see from here, but that sounds right. So these are 155 mics. Why on earth are we going out there? Look, that's an old thing for people in the military to write messages to their adversaries. But does Nikki Haley really have a dog in this fight in real life? Or are we just going to go ahead and try to write the blank check for a bunch of money? And she's hoping that they buy a bunch more of these shells from U.S. arms manufacturers. I don't know. I start seeing this. I see this as well. We start talking about what's going on. CBS talking about NATO allies. They're bracing for a possible Trump return in 2024. God forbid. By the way, that's the funniest still I've ever done. This woman with her eyes closed. She looks like she's having a real problem. Europe is watching the U.S. presidential elections very, very closely. With 6 months to go, American NATO allies are planning to boost their defense spending ahead of a potential disruption of a second Donald Trump turn. Interesting. Is that what Donald Trump's term means? That we're going to pull money out of NATO? That sounds awesome to me as an America-only kind of guy. That sounds awesome to me as someone who is who's never Nikki 100%. God, I love it when you guys point out good stuff in the chat too. She's wearing a plate carrier but no helmet. Yeah, she's wearing just like some costume there. And she's signing artillery shells. It is important to have predictability for allies and the Ukraine, said who is this person? This is Onana Lunguska. I don't know who the heck that is. Why on earth are we quoting people that have nothing to do with American interests? This plan relieves the United States of some of the operational burden while maintaining full oversight. The Secretary General has proposed a $107 billion 5-year package of aid for Ukraine. That's a lot of money. That's not even close to what we've given. That's just the UN version of it. Why are we ramping up for this land war in Russia, in Asia, in the Middle East? Is this like not just the easiest thing? Just go to the anti-war people that are on the Democrat side and go like, look what you guys are doing. Look what we're about here. We're talking about stepping up, not 1, not 2, but 3 conflicts. He wants to outdo Barack Obama, apparently, and have us engage in ground conflicts. Or Trump, which means probably less war, at least based on the track record. But remember, folks, dictator for life, right? A dictator for life. That's what we're all talking about here, because that's obviously where we're going to be living. It's bizarre to watch it. And not to be outdone with the fear porn and the readiness, you can't tell me that this stuff is not by a plan. The DNC plans to nominate Biden and Harris virtually before the convention. Are people on the left worried about that? Are they doing the puppet routine? Are they looking around going, oh, okay, yeah, that's obviously what you do. That's normal. The Democrat Party plans to nominate President Biden and Vice President Harris virtually before the scheduled convention in late August in order to meet an August 7th ballot certification deadline in Ohio. Wait a minute. They planned their convention and they blew it because there actually is a deadline that is going to be passing before the convention. So they're going to have to do a fake convention. What is the purpose of the convention? They're not going to nominate somebody there. The move means the most dramatic and obvious reason for the Democrats to hold their quadrennial meetings will once again be held over Zoom instead of in person. Interesting. Are they kind of tipping the hand here too? They're worried about the protests like they did in 1968. Are they worried about the fact that the convention might not go as well? Or are they hoping that people will not be paying attention and you're going to be distracted with Donald Trump? Were they hoping we were going to be in the middle of a trial at that time? I assume so. How bad at planning do you have to be to miss a state deadline in a place like Ohio? It's not like they missed it in a state where they're going to where that's not up for grabs. When you're doing things via Zoom, I imagine you've got a lot of liability. You got way less TV coverage. It's way less compelling to show a Zoom screen on network than it is to show a bunch of people walking through confetti and balloons and all the other nonsense, right? How interesting. How strange. Ohio is running out of time to get Joe Biden, the sitting president, on the ballot in this fall. This was an issue that was covered yesterday on a number of places. The issue is that apparently they're going to screw it up. They've screwed up the deadlines. It just kind of tells you, that kind of feels like a campaign being run by an old guy. We always say that Joe Biden's not in charge, but are his people any more competent than he is? Where's that funny little clip of him yelling at people? What's your message about not running? I don't know. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm a confused guy. 92%.
Mr. President, what's your message to Democrats who don't want you to run again?
They want me to run.
Yeah, they want you to run. That's why they're going to do a virtual convention and nominate you via Zoom. Anyhow, I'm just telling you, that's the opportunity cost of us not paying attention there. Let me do one more little read here. Quick one. If you guys want to go and support the program, mypillow.com/Kyle. mypillow.com/Kyle. The promo code Kyle at MyPillow will save you up to 50%. I'm not going to belabor the point here. You guys know how to find it. I want to cover this because this is some gravy and gross stuff. Ooh, speaking of saving money. Luckily, the American taxpayers are now going to pay out Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, who reached a settlement with DOJ over the release of their text messages. Oh, their privacy was violated as they were using... why did they have the text messages in the first place? Why did DOJ have them? Because they're not flipping private. Just like every single one of you that's ever worked for a company that says your emails belong to us if you use our servers. Your phone messages belong to us if you use our phones. Your records belong to us if you use them. And it's even more so in the federal government. You sign paperwork every single year as an FBI employee letting you know that this is not private. It's all discoverable for an illegal process. But instead, Strzok and Page sued DOJ, and the adulterous lovers are getting paid out, apparently. Isn't that amazing? CNN covering this kind of on the sly yesterday. They've reached a settlement with the Justice Department after they alleged their privacy rights were violated when their text messages were released and became political fodder for Donald Trump. Here's the amazing part. Do you have any idea how much money it costs to sue DOJ? The settlement, described as a tentative agreement in court filings Tuesday, will resolve the 5-year-old case that Lisa Page brought against her former employer. She sought financial damages of at least $1,000 for alleged privacy violations after her text messages, critical of Donald Trump, were released in the media. A 5-year court case, and she's seeking $1,000 from DOJ. Are we ever going to see how much money that was that they're paying with our dollars to these scumbags? These people are the real problem. These people are the scumbaggery that has been screwing up and weaponizing our federal government. In the meantime, they're going to get paid out. Do you think that they're paying full price for lawyers? This is what you got to go and push this stuff out to the normies. I've talked to people about suing DOJ for what they did to our family. And I was told that it would cost us somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000, and we might get $150,000 to $200,000 back. And so therefore it wouldn't be worth my time. And nobody wants to take it on a contingency. You think that those two are paying full price for attorneys to file 5 years worth for $1,000 in damages? No flippin' way. They had no right to privacy. Why do they have no right? Because they were using government phones, because they were banging on company time. And can you imagine being such a cheap shit like this guy? I'm sorry, I have to contain myself here. But Peter Strzok is such a moron that he's out there sleeping around on his wife on company time, and he's too cheap to go get a flippin' hotel room, which is why they did it in like bureau cars and stuff. This is the scandal that you go and you tell the normies about. Your money is paying off people who are obviously partisan actors within weaponized DOJ and weaponized FBI who write crazy search warrants and tried to basically throw the 2016 election and then worked for 4 years to undermine the Trump administration. 4 years where they were trying to upset the so-called My Democracy. Is that what justice looks like, people? It's not what you deserve. It's what you can pay for. And it turns out if someone's going to volunteer their legal services like this one, then you can pay for an awful lot. Yeah. Last thought, fear porn. It's Weird Wednesday. Let's cover down on this for funsies. The bird flu vaccine is made with eggs, and that has scientists worried. Why, you say? Why would the scientists be worried about anything? Health officials are concerned by the bird flu outbreak. There have been at least 36 livestock herds that have tested positive across 9 states. Well, 9 is less than 1 in 5 states, and 36 livestock herds across this country is not very many. There's probably 36 livestock herds in like one county in New Mexico. So this is called fear porn. This is what it looks like. The bird flu vaccine is made with eggs. This is actually a really, really funny article, and I highly recommend you guys go check it out if you get a chance. Even a peep of news about the new flu pandemic is enough to set scientists clucking about eggs. What a great opening line for clown shows. Maybe they should write some lines for De Niro, huh? They're worried about 2005 and 2009, and now they're worried because millions of fertilized hen eggs are still the main ingredient in making vaccines that hopefully will protect people against a new strain of bird flu. It's almost comical. We're using 1940s technology for a 21st century pandemic, says this guy. Who led the Health and Human Services Department, the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority under the Trump administration. That guy sounds like the enemy. But it's not so funny, he said, because the H5N1, I told you here before, H5N1 is going to think they're getting excited about. It takes 2 shots. Oh, and they're calling them flu vaccines. But it provides middling immunity, kind of like the COVID shots, it feels like, huh? Go figure. And here's the best part for me. This is the part I can't get away with. How about this little gem? Look at this little line in here. So far, the only confirmed human cases of infections were dairy workers in 2 states, Texas and Michigan, both of whom suffered, get ready for the symptoms, it's going to blow your mind. They suffered pink eye and quickly recovered. They buried that at the bottom of the article, folks. The bird flu vaccine has people very, very worried for something that has exactly 2 cases of dairy workers in 2 states that are not next to each other who suffered pink eye and quickly recovered. Yet the virus is spread to multiple species over a vast geographic area. That shows us that there could be a threat of further mutations. It could be if it jumps species to species more, and it could get airborne if it becomes an airborne thing, causing respiratory infections human to human. Do you know how many logical leaps are made in that 1 2-sentence paragraph? About 6. 6. It would have to get more dangerous than pink eye that you recover from quickly. It would have to spread to people who are more than just those who work in dairy farms. It would have to actually expand its ability to go from species to species and specifically actually catch up with human beings, who those people might have, for all we know, been like handling pig crap and putting it in their eye, or chicken crap and putting it in their eye. You know, if you've ever seen how people work, they put stuff in their eyes. That just happens. And then it would have to spread in an airborne transmission, which it doesn't seem to be currently going through. That's a lot of logical jumps, in your head to be concerned about respiratory infections that are going to kill off a bunch of people. But by the way, get scared of the eggs. Are we trying to do another egg shortage? Because I remember that. That wasn't that cool. It actually was pretty weak when we started talking about eggs in this country, and we couldn't go get them at a Costco, which is why I want to play this last clip, and I failed to load it, so stand by. We're going to load this little piece up. It's just a little simple discussion about how, man, things are a lot more expensive, aren't they? They're a lot more expensive than they used to be. And here we go.
Grocery prices are up nearly 27% since 2020, and many shoppers have turned to Walmart and other discount stores for cheaper items. Target decided to cut prices after seeing a drop in business, and grocers like Aldi are doing the same.
I always look for buy one, get one free, and if I have a coupon for it, and then I stock up. I've got 4 kids at home. And they eat like crazy.
All got to eat, right? Analysts say since 2022, they've seen shoppers focus a lot more on essentials and cutting out items they don't necessarily need. Grocery prices.
But tell me more about how good the economy is under Joe Biden, and tell me more about how everyone is demanding that this guy run. It doesn't seem to be there. They got us focused on what they want us focused on, and it's not what we need. That's why I think all of this is going to be about what's in it for me, letting people know that it's their wallets that matter. Make sure you've given us a thumbs up if you're watching this video over on Rumble, or if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching us on X, make sure you've done that. And you can always join us in the live chat here on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. We appreciate all of that. I'm just telling you, people, this election is going to be all about people down the middle. You don't need to convince people that agree with you. You need to convince people that it actually matters and that there is something that is at play that's bigger than that. People who want to be left alone, they don't want to be worrying about a bird flu. People who want to pay not crazy amounts for groceries don't need a 20% price hike in the last 4 years. That's the real simple piece there. If we can just get ourselves talking about the things that actually matter, and why a Donald Trump campaign talking about putting him in a courtroom from here until November is a problem, not for Donald Trump, but for everybody, because we have a weaponized government. This is the talking points I want to stay on. These are the places we do it. Many of you are probably feeling terrible about the way the world is. I don't blame you. It's not your fault. A couple things will make you feel better. Number one, our ironic t-shirt called the Zelensky Special. It's the first Suspendables t-shirt. You guys can support my buddy Garrett O'Boyle, who just gave a speech in Idaho and is traveling. We wish him safe travels. Put him back to work. Go to the-suspendables.com, the-suspendables.com. The promo code is Kyle. Again, Kyle. Save yourself 10% whenever you want to go buy some of the merch. You know why we made the merch? Because you guys were asking for merch. It's not because we were like, oh, what if we could become a t-shirt mogul? No, the answer was how do we show support for this family? How do we keep guys like Garrett O'Boyle in the fight, letting you know that we have this weaponized government? I got your palate cleanser here, folks. It's not going to be that clean because it's Wednesday. The-suspendables.com. The promo code is Kyle, Kyle. Let me give you a 5-star review, and I'll also give you something a little bit funny. This one's coming from Varga49US on Spotify. Just a short note. Thank you, Kyle, for being genuine and using genuine American language. You mean like a...
Già troppa frociaggine.
Sometimes we use genuine Italian language. I don't know. And CR Velacruz sent this one. Or Velasquez, sorry. I'm so sorry. CR Velasquez. I think I'm saying that correct. Awesome podcast, Kyle. Hamburgers are made from pork, just like Girl Scout cookies are made from Girl Scouts. 5 stars. I think you guys know exactly what was going on there.
Già troppa frociaggine.
There's too much of the faggotry still. We are just laughing about these people. There are a lot of people in this country that don't know even that what a hamburger is made out of, or that you could take a lemon. You guys remember that video we played a while back? You could take a lemon right off the tree and eat it. These are the people we're trying to convince to vote. They're worried about more important things, like they don't even know where food comes from. You think they know what's going on in the Donald Trump trial? No, they do not. So make it about what's important to them. I got a palate cleanser. I wouldn't leave you hanging here. First, I'm watching this story. This is a 5-second clip. I'm going to show you real quick. I don't know what happened here at this Chase Bank in Ohio. We're going to keep watching it and see what the story is. There's news stories about it, but no one has anything conclusive. So yeah, a bank blew up. So we're watching that. I just wanted to tell you, I know it happened. I don't know what happened there. So we're going to keep looking. We don't have to be first. We just want to be right when we cover it. And I do have some friends that deal with evidence collection and explosives. So we'll kind of lean on that. Maybe we'll cover it up on Friday if we can find out what's going on. Cover down on it, not cover it up. I can't cover anything up here. All right. You guys ready for a little palate cleanser? This is kind of how I feel in the morning. There's a point to all of this. The point is pray for this country. Go about your business and do your tasks as needed. Go about the things that you can control in front of you, because the chaos and the insanity that are happening out all around us, you have no ability to affect it. This is a little piece from Keen and Peele. It's actually fantastic. There's no words in this, so you're going to have to come to Rumble and watch this if you want to. And obviously, we're just over the hour mark here where you can find it. Let's take a deep breath. This is the time when you pray and you focus about the small things that you can affect, the things that are within your own sphere of influence, not the bigger. Yep. That's what it's about, right? It's about focus on what you can control. You can't stop the mushroom cloud coming for you. You can't stop a massive explosion that happens where you can see the flash from the nuclear, the Judgment Day, if you will. By the way, I found that looking for Judgment Day clips. Yeah. Just focus on the things you can do. Love your kids, parent them correctly, Talk to your neighbors who are interested in being talked to. Don't talk to the people that disagree with you and pick fights. Those don't matter. Those fights are not there. And, maybe a little bit more sugar. That's my favorite. He just goes, if we're doing mushroom clouds, I'm putting a little bit more sweetener on this. I'm not worried about calories today. Forget the fake sugar. We're going for the real thing. There's something to be said about going for real food right now, too. Real sugar, real meat, avoid the processed stuff. I love it. Anyway, there's only so much you can affect in your sphere, and we might as well kind of focus on those. And I just saw you guys saying stuff about sugar. I do honey in this family. We're all about honey. And sometimes maple syrup in your coffee. If you've never done that, real maple syrup, you're missing out. Okay, folks, that's it for the show today. We appreciate you guys joining us, and I hope that you join us tomorrow. One of these days, we're going to bring on Steve Baker. He dropped a huge thing with the actual FD 888 that's going on that's just causing people on the right to lose their minds. The story is bigger. I'm telling you, it's about people in the middle, and Steve Baker gets it. So we like Steve. We're going to bring him on. We'll do that very, very soon. Until then, God bless all of you. Focus on those things in your sphere, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.